It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of December 11th, 1992. We've got 4 movies to look at today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump right on into it, and we'll start off with the first movie that we have, the biggest new release of the weekend, Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, and Jack Nicholson in Rob Reiner's A Few Good Men, written by Aaron Sorkin.
You ever served in an infantry unit, son?
No, sir.
Ever served in a forward area?
No, sir.
Ever put your life in another man's hands, asked him to put his life in yours?
No, sir.
We follow orders, son. We follow orders or people die. It's that simple. Are we clear?
Yes, sir.
Are we clear?
Crystal.
All those having business with this General Court Martial, stand forward and you shall be heard.
The facts of the case are these. On midnight of September 6th, the accused entered the barracks room of their platoon mate. They woke him up, tied his arms and legs with tape, forced a rag into his throat. A few minutes later, a chemical reaction caused his lungs to begin bleeding. He drowned in his own blood and was pronounced dead at 37 minutes past midnight.
You think Santiago was murdered?
Private Santiago is dead, and that is a tragedy. But he is dead because he had no code. He is dead because he had no honor. And God was watching.
How do you feel about that theory?
Sounds good to me.
I'll knock it all down to involuntary manslaughter.
No deal, we're going to court.
No, you're not.
Why not?
Because you'll lose.
You want to investigate me? Roll the dice and take your chances. I eat breakfast 300 yards from 4,000 Cubans who are trained to kill me. So don't think for 1 second you can come down here, flash a badge, and make me nervous.
Your men follow orders or people die.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth. Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You?
But if this case is handled in the same fast food, slick-ass, Persian bazaar manner with which you seem to handle everything else, then something's gonna get missed.
In the heart of the nation's capital, in a courthouse of the United States government, one man will stop at nothing to keep his honor, and one will stop at nothing to find the truth.
So like I said, this is Aaron Sorkin's A Few Good Men, based off of the play that he wrote, and this was actually the first motion picture he'd ever written, and this was the thing that got him started in the world of in Hollywood, like in films and television. This was the movie that branched him out, and sadly he didn't get nominated for writing this. He did not get a Best Screenplay nomination. It would take him many years, almost 20 years later, to actually win an Oscar for that. And I think Aaron Sorkin is one of the smartest writers out there, and this movie pretty much shows you why his writing is so good. This movie is a great film. Great cast: Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, Jack Nicholson, the 3 leads there, but you also have people like Kevin Bacon. You see Kiefer Sutherland in there, Kevin Pollak, J.T. Walsh, Cuba Gooding Jr., just a phenomenal cast involved in this movie, and it's just a great courtroom thriller. I mean, it's a great not even a thriller, Tory Boat, courtroom drama. That's really what it is, and it shows how much Rob Reiner has involved as a director, because he had just done Misery before this, and it shows how he can do these other genres and do it pretty well. But the writing in here is really top notch. I mean, actually, when this movie came out, a lot of people were very mixed about it, especially somebody like Roger Ebert. And Roger Ebert's usually very easy to please, but he wasn't as enthusiastic about this movie, basically saying that he thought the major flaw of the movie was them revealing the courtroom strategy to the audience before the climactic scene between Cruise and Nicholson, saying that in many ways this is a good film with the potential to be even better than that, but the flaws are mostly at the script level. The film doesn't make it work, doesn't allow us to figure out things for ourselves, is afraid we'll miss things if they're not spelled out. Honestly, I think he's a little bit over-exaggerating, because I think the script does a pretty good job of... Granted, maybe it is simplifying it a little bit, but you gotta... But in a way, it kind of works as a crowd is for the people who are not as smart as the writing of Sorkin Sorkin's work usually is, because Aaron Sorkin usually is very smart when it comes to writing his material, and some of his dialogue does get a little, is probably wouldn't work for the regular mainstream people. So I get where he's going for it, but I think he made it. I think Sorkin made it work here enough. I mean, the idea of showing the courtroom strategy to the audience, I think, is very good, especially for people who don't really have a good idea of courtroom knowledge, and the only thing they know about courtrooms is when they watch something like The People's Court, which was a big show back then, and still kind of is, except then he had Judge Wapner instead of now I can't remember her name now, Marilyn Milan, and then you also have Judge Judy, but I think it works here because I think they do a pretty good job of they simplify it, but they don't dumb it down enough where people can really get confused by it. I think they did much better of a job than I think Ebert makes it out to be. And the writing and the acting overall is just fantastic. That courtroom scene where Tom Cruise is just eyeing in on Jack Nicholson and trying to get him to admit what he did is and try to get him to tell the truth. And has one of the great is of course the great line, "You can't handle the truth," and Jack Nicholson just going off on him, and it's just such great acting overall. And Cruise and Nicholson, these two really have to stand next to each other. Like Tom Cruise really needs to keep up with Jack Nicholson if he's going to make a scene work, and he really does a good job here. I think this is the movie this is one of those movies that really shows that, you know, Tom Cruise is not just the flavor of the month type of actor. He's not just doing stuff like Top Gun or Days of Thunder. In fact, another review that I saw for this actually said that pretty much that Sorkin took the opposite approach of what Top Gun was, because in Top Gun, when he plays Maverick, he's a hotshot military underachiever who makes mistakes because he's trying to outperform his father, and when Maverick has to rein in the discipline, Cruise's character, Daniel Kaffee, I think it is, needs to let it go, finally see what he can do. And the film overall does a pretty good job of examining that. Like I said, the casting overall is great in this. The writing in this is top-notch. This is just one of the great courtroom movies ever made. A Few Good Men, man. I mean, what more can you say about this movie that hasn't already been said? Terrific film. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, man. Go out and see it. So, that's A Few Good Men. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is The Muppet Christmas Carol.
He was the greediest man alive.
It's Ebenezer Scrooge.
Until the night he met someone extraordinary.
Hello.
The Muppet Christmas Carol.
I'll drink to Mr. Scrooge, even though he is odious, stingy, and badly dressed.
Humbug.
Oh, there goes Mr. Humbug. There goes Mr. Grim.
Do you think it's safe for us to be up here?
If they gave a prize for being mean, the winner would be him.
Yes, Mr. Cratchit.
If you please, Mr. Scrooge, the bookkeeping staff would like to have an extra shovel full of coal for the fire.
We're such a fool.
How would the bookkeepers like to be suddenly
Unemployed!
This is my island in this
It's Charles Dickens' classic tale, as only the Muppets can tell it.
It's good to be heckling again. It's good to be doing anything again.
Filled with holiday warmth.
Hey, light the lamp, not the rat, light the lamp, not the rat.
And Christmas spirit. Jacob Marley.
Oh, that's scary stuff. Should we be worried about the kids in the audience?
No, it's all right. This is culture.
This is the movie to see, to share, to cherish with someone you love.
Thank you for making me a part of this.
Walt Disney Pictures presents, from Jim Henson Productions, The Muppet Christmas Carol.
God bless us, everyone.
Whatever.
So yeah, you don't really usually see a Christmas movie opening after Thanksgiving. I mean, if you want your Christmas movie to do very well during the holiday season, because the holiday season is usually the time to go to the movies. I mean, and Christmas movies usually do very well largely before Thanksgiving. Like, if you open up the week after Halloween, or maybe 2 weeks after Halloween, then you're pretty set for the rest of the holiday season. I mean, Elf and the Polar Express are perfect examples of movies that did that. There's been a couple of examples where some of them have opened on after Thanksgiving, like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation opened the week after Thanksgiving. Or, you could usually make the most money when you go open it when you go open a movie like a week after Halloween, or on Thanksgiving weekend, and then watch the money roll in as the holidays go along. This opened on December 11th, which is really, really odd for a number of reasons. I guess because Disney had Aladdin and they thought that that was where most of the money was going to come from this holiday season. They decided, you know what, we're comfortable enough to put this movie in theaters a couple weeks after Thanksgiving. We're just going to have these 2 weeks before Christmas, and then we'll be set because Aladdin will be out. And keep in mind, this was the first Muppet movie released by Disney after they bought Jim Henson's production company. And this was also the first movie made without Jim Henson involved. And again, one of the other things that you have to note about this movie is that there aren't any celebrity cameos in this like there were in the last couple of movies. Like this is one of the couple of movies that they did with Disney where they don't have it's a lot of major stars except for one in this case, which is Michael Caine. The movie didn't do well at the box office, kind of because of the fact that it opened 2 weeks before Christmas. I think it only ended up making like $27 million, which is not very good for a kids' film around that time. But luckily, the film still has found a life through television, DVD, VHS, Blu-ray. I mean, this year it's celebrating its 30th anniversary, and you can really see why. I mean, this movie really is pretty good. Like, it still holds up over 30 years later. I did like a lot of this movie. I think Michael Caine does a very good job as Ebenezer Scrooge, and I like his interactions with the Muppet characters. It's so weirdly enjoyable when you look at the way he's looking at them. Like, he's not looking at them as different people. He's having interactions with these characters like they're really there, and you've got these really over the top mannerisms that he's having when he's talking to these people, especially the Ghost of Christmas Present, which leads to a lot of funny moments. I think he was in on and I'm pretty sure he was in on the joke all along. I mean, this guy did Jaws: The Revenge. I mean, this movie is like Citizen Kane compared to that one. But the songs overall are really catchy. There's nothing really all that memorable to them except for the song that got cut, which was and now I can't remember the name of that one. I'm having trouble remembering a lot of names today. When Love Is Gone, which there's a really interesting history behind that song not being in there. So what happened was the song was originally cut from the theatrical edition of the movie when Jeffrey Katzenberg thought the song would not appeal to younger viewers. Which, if you know Jeffrey Katzenberger's various decisions he may have helped save Disney's animation studio back then, but he did not make the best decisions. Like I talked about when The Little Mermaid came out, he wanted to cut Part of Your World because he didn't think the song was working. And then later on down the road, when they were pitching The Lion King and Pocahontas, he was selling Pocahontas as the next West Side Story. It was going to be a big hit, and The Lion King was going to be this experiment, and he didn't think people were going to see it. So Katzenberger did a lot for Disney, but he was not right always. And I guess you could kind of say the same thing with Michael Eisner, especially in his later years. But the song was only played during the end credits, and the director Brian Henson, who is of course Jim Henson's son, I think. Let me see. Yeah, son. Okay, I'm not gonna cut off for that one, but so what happened was it's missing on several copies of the movie, but there are some versions of it where it is available on some DVDs. I think it's available on the VHS, on the Laserdisc. Both the 2002 and the 2005 versions on DVD have that version, but they don't have. It's only in the full screen version of the movie, not in the widescreen version, which cuts like 4 minutes out of the movie because the full screen version is 90 minutes, the widescreen version is 86 minutes. The 2012, and then when it came out on Blu-ray, it does not include the song, but the digital download release of the film does as a bonus feature. And just this year at the D23 Expo, they finally got the film to be put back intact. It's going to be on the new version of the movie when it gets re-released on Disney Plus, which is on December 11th, I think they said, which will be the 30th anniversary of when this movie came out. And I mean, overall, the movie is really good. I like how the story manages to stick with the original take of the story. It works really well. It's not played down so much that it's not dumbed down as much, but little kids aren't frightened by some of the darker moments, and that both them and adults will enjoy this movie a lot. It reminds me a lot of the 2004 Christmas Carol the musical, which is a very underrated adaptation. I love A Christmas Carol. I think it's one of the great Christmas stories, and I always look forward to every single adaptation that comes out of it. And this one doesn't rank up there with the best of the adaptations, but it is still a very enjoyable movie. It's a fun, enjoyable movie. Michael Caine is clearly having the time of his life with this. The Muppets are done very well here, especially with this being the first project after Henson's death. I do admit that the kids, I think, would enjoy this more as it would serve as a greatest introduction to not just the Christmas Carol, but also to the Muppets. Even adults like myself who grew up with the Muppets or the Muppet Babies, it still has a nostalgic feel for me, despite a lot of its flaws. It's a good Christmas movie, not one of the best takes of the story, but it's one I definitely like to at least watch it once every year. So I might have just slipped you off there for a second, but bottom line, Muppet Christmas Carol, I enjoyed it a lot. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie. That is Passion Fish.
2 Academy Awards.
What happened to my legs?
Car accident. We read all about your tragedy.
Passion Fish.
So you have Mary McDonnell playing the soap opera star who was just paralyzed after being in a car accident with a taxi. She's forced to return to her family home and rely under a series of nurses, forcing each of them out until one, played by Alfre Woodard, kind of teaches her makes her change her outlook on life. And I say this because I haven't seen this movie. I've heard about it. I know that this movie was nominated for an Oscar for Mary McDonnell and also John Sayles, the writer of this. John Sayles, if you don't remember, he's the guy that wrote stuff like City of Hope. He also directed 8 Men Out, The Secret of Roan Irish, Lone Star, Silver City, various movies. And like I said, I haven't seen the movie, so I can't really comment on it too much, but it does look like a pretty decent movie overall. You got 2 really good actresses in here: Mary McDonnell, Alfre Woodard. Also in here, Vondie Curtis Hall, David Strathairn, Nora Dunn, Angela Bassett, Sheila Kelly. Just a great cast overall. An overall pretty solid story, but from this trailer, I mean. But it could be something pretty good. I mean, I haven't seen it, but maybe one day I'll definitely check it out. And I haven't seen this last movie either, so we'll be real quick on this one. It's Night and Day.
Elle n'aimait pas rester seule dans leur petit appartement. Il faisait trop chaud. Dehors, les nuits étaient plus fraîches. Fais attention à toi. Parfois, j'en vois toutes les couleurs.
Je n'ai pas peur. Il ne peut rien m'arriver.
Et c'était vrai, il ne lui arrivait rien.
Le jour, il me raconte sa nuit. Et moi, la nuit, j'erre dans Paris.
So the premise is that this couple, Jack and Julie, live together in Paris. They're a couple who are so in love with one another, they forget the rest of the world even exists. Jack works as a taxi driver by night so he can be with Julie in the day. One day he introduces Julie to this guy, Joseph, who is also a taxi driver by day, and those two end up falling in love and have an affair afterwards. So, kind of in a way, it reminds me a little bit of Midnight in Paris, except not quite to the extreme level, because these two people, because at least one of these people really loves the feel of the city of Paris. I mean, you can see it in that little clip there, but I don't know too much more about this movie. It probably is not like that whatsoever, but looks nice. I mean, I'd like to visit Paris one day. I think Midnight in Paris really made me want to see Paris, France. I mean, the way that movie was made, I think that movie really made me convinced that I have to see Paris one day before I die. But but we'll save that more of that when we get to Midnight in Paris eventually. But that's pretty much all I got for you on this one, Night and Day. Like I said, I haven't seen it. I can't really comment on it too much. So, Night and Day. So that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time, we'll take a look at the week before Christmas. 4 movies that came out, including Mel Gibson's Forever Young, Robin Williams' Toys, directed by Barry Levinson, Steve Martin and Deborah Winger in Leap of Faith, and also Used People. So 4 movies to look at next time around, and we'll do that on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.